Hello, a little bit delayed there. Sorry about that, but I just literally, as I was going live, I saw that we have lost the great Bill Kenwright. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. I know that for a lot of actors, he gave them their first start. He was also chairman of Everton Football Club. I actually wasn't aware of that. His last theatre production, The Critic, I think there's a film version of that coming. So you can expect to see that in the not too distant future. But yeah, I mean, and I believe he was married to Jenny Seagrove, I think. So again, expressing my condolences and very sorry. He's a theatre legend, and the man's record speaks for itself. But let me get to the job at hand. This is a short review. It's not going to be super long, but I did want to give this show a shout out. I literally just finished watching it yesterday, and I binge watched it all in a single, pretty much a single evening. I kind of started watching it around 6, and I think I finished it around 1. So yeah, I watched it straight through. It's always nice to be able to watch a show straight through, and that's Three Little Birds. Now, Three Little Birds had a long development process. Lenny Henry first mentioned he was developing a show about the first generation of Jamaicans coming to live and work in the UK. This is kind of just after the sort of the Windrush. So I guess the people that came just after them. And this is set in the mid, I want to say sort of mid 1950s, early to mid 1950s. And focuses on 3 characters who you could assume were the 3 little birds of the piece, if you like, although that is actually a Bob Marley song which came out in 1977. The 3 actresses concerned, who you can see here, Rochelle Neil is in the centre, who essentially plays really the leading role, and she's an actress whose work I'm very familiar with because I followed her career quite early, and actually I invited her to come and see the screening of my last full feature film, and she was kind enough to attend, and I've kept an eye on what she's been doing ever since. I had hoped at some stage that we would have got to work together, but as I'm pulling out a production this year, sadly, probably not. She plays the role of Leah Whitaker, a mother with 3 kids, who is in an abusive relationship with a drunk of a husband. She got married quite young, and some of these details are revealed to us as the show goes on. So there's a central narrative that moves forward in the traditional fashion, and then this is juxtaposed occasionally with short vignette flashbacks that reveal other details about our central 3 characters as the show progresses. On the right, you have Saffron Kumar, who's an actress, or Saffron Kumba, who's an actress that I'm not familiar with, and she's exceptionally good in this. She plays the character of Chantrell Brahms. She is Leah's younger sister. It may be that she's her half sister. The details of that have not been revealed in the show just yet. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers. I just want to sort of set the scene, and then I'll tell you my thoughts. The third lead is played by Yasmin Bello. I'm wondering if she's a relation of producer Kai Bello, who's a friend of mine. I haven't had a chance to see if that's the case yet. She plays Hosanna Drake, who is a friend of the other 2 sisters and has been promised as a potential bride for their brother, Aston, who is already in the UK. Aston is played by Javon Prince, who's an actor I'm familiar with. I've seen him in a couple of things. I think I've seen him on stage. In fact, he's very good. And they're your three principals. Now, the character of Leah Whitaker, who Rochelle Neil plays, is, I believe, is loosely based, and I say loosely, on the life of Lenny Henry's mother when she first came to the UK. I believe that's correct. How much of it strays from into the realm of drama fiction probably isn't that important. The collective stories of these people who experienced racism on a pretty massive scale. They were very poorly paid for the most part, even more poorly paid than their white working class counterparts. And of course, then also came into conflict with people over dating outside of their race, as did people who were already here who made that decision. I've experienced racism in that world myself from both sides. So all of these things are covered in the story, and it really follows those three storylines and the various characters that rotate in their orbit. So I'm going to deal with each of them first, and let's take my friend Rochelle Neil, who plays Leah Whitaker. Very solid performance from her. This is probably her biggest part to date. She has done some pretty decent roles, some pretty meaty roles in other shows. But this one, like World, you might have seen her in World on Fire, which I have to say for me has been a massively disappointing show. And I'm a huge World War II guy, but I'll cover that on a different stream. So it's good that she's been given a role that she's more than capable of handling. She's very convincing in the role of Leah, has a fantastic bond with the three child actors who play her kids. You do feel like you're having a fly on the wall look into her life. Now, her character is not all good. And in fact, I have to say that by the end of the show, I was in a bit of a moral dilemma, in the sense that I felt that her moral compass is a little bit broken. She's kind of almost tricks her friend into and pressures her friend into marrying her brother, which is clearly a bad decision. And she knows it's a bad decision, and everybody owes this brother Aston owes everyone money, and that's kind of passed off as a bit of a joke, and I felt that story should have been played with a bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? I think I read in one review about the show that some elements of the story lacked grit. I don't think the show lacks grit, far from it, but maybe that storyline, it felt like it had little consequence, and that this woman was easily misled as to Aston's prospects, shall we say. So I wasn't convinced that Hosanna Drake, played by Yasmin Bello on the left here, exceptionally good performance from the actress, wasn't convinced that character would have been so quick to make that decision when the information around her is telling her this is a bad idea. That was perhaps one of the elements of the storyline that in the realm that they had set up wasn't entirely convincing for me. Going to Yasmin Bello next, who plays Hosanna Drake. She's a woman of religious conviction. We discover that her father, who was the main priest, disappeared, also emigrated to the UK some years earlier, and ran off with all the money from the church. And she was left to pick up the pieces. Their family's reputation is in ruins. And she has, I think, actually, of the three, her storyline for me was the most interesting. And I liked the fact that they didn't just play her as a boring goody two-shoes, I'm a Christian Bible thumper. She had more nuance than that. That was partly down to the performance of the actress, who, as I said, it's very good performance. But her character was more complex than that. Her relationship with her father was more complex, and I liked that. I liked her storyline. Third, we have Saffron Coomber, who plays Chantrell Brahms, who's an aspiring actress. She wants to go to Boreham Wood Studios, which back then was the main functioning studio. I don't think Pinewood was up and running. You had the Ealing Studios and Boreham Wood Studios were the two studios that were basically either film or television were being made. The Ealing comedies, of course, were being made at Ealing Studios at that time. So it's not quite clear to me the marked difference that the two characters who are sisters, how their upbringings have been quite so different. Who were their dads? Did they have different dads? I might have missed it, but I don't think that was covered in the show. And as I said, I might have missed it, but I don't remember seeing it. Good to see Desert Phoenix and David Macy popping in. Thanks, guys. This show, by the way, in case I didn't mention it, is available on ITV1 or ITV X if you have access to that. I'm pretty sure it will be out on the bigger channels very soon. 6 episodes long. Each episode's about 45 minutes. So continuing with Chantel's character, she comes over on a job that's been prearranged to essentially work as a nanny and a household maid, only to find that the rates of pay that she thought she was going to get are not going to be in place until after the first month, only if she's deemed to be good enough. The mother who runs the house is a tyrant and borderline racist. The father is basically looking to have an affair and does everything he can to entreat Chantrell into one. She's not having any of it, and that's quite a tense and actually quite horrible storyline. She forms a friendship with the character of Siobhan, who's the nanny that works in the house next door, played by Michelle Fox. Nice performance from Michelle Fox. Didn't have a lot to work with. She hasn't got many scenes. I have seen her before. She was in A Very English Scandal. I remember her from that. And also she was in a TV series called Overshadowed. So she's an actress that's, doing pretty well, actually, and had some decent roles. Let's see her get more, because I think she's very talented. So it's implied, I'll get into a few little details here. So if you don't want spoilers, then maybe skip to the end. It's implied that in season 2, and I think we will get a season 2 for this show. I think we will get a season 2, that Chantrell and Siobhan, who she later is reunited with further into the story, may begin a romantic relationship. And of course, back then, any kind of gay relationship, lesbian, gay, was frowned upon, just in all society, let alone a mixed one, let alone in the Caribbean culture. So, which is still incredibly homophobic today. So I think that's probably something that we might find out. That storyline might be pursued further down the road. Against the backdrop of all this, we see the working class set up the kind of jobs that these people were given. The story shifts to Dudley fairly early on, and it's the life of working in factories, going to pubs after work or on a Friday night, not having a huge amount of other things to do, working for an extremely poor salary, living in squalor conditions in overpriced housing with people sharing a room. Now, one of something that is covered in the show is that of course, a lot of white families or white landlords did not want to rent their houses to the immigration waves that were coming over from Jamaica, who'd been asked to come over to help rebuild Britain after the war. This was an initiative, by the way, started by the government. Just going to say that. And but of course, a lot of them couldn't find decent places to live. However, Asian immigrants had also come over and collectively pooled money, and a number of them bought houses in places like Leeds, Bradford, Dudley, of course, and others. And this is how you already had established in the UK a number of Asian landlords, and they were the one group of people who were prepared to rent their houses out to immigrants from other countries coming into the UK who might not be received so warmly elsewhere. But unfortunately, a lot of them were, these dwellings were barely habitable and extremely poor. This is before all the legislation that was set up that we've got now in terms of the quality of housing that you have to have. So one of the things I really like about the show, one of the strengths about the show, is there's a lot of little details in it that pick up on things that were historically happened at that time. The devil is in the detail, and this show has a lot of detail like that. Not just in the production design, the logos, the vehicles, the transport, all of the art direction, production design is absolutely first class. And actually, I need to compliment the people who are behind that because they did an outstanding job. Let's just see who that is. I'm sorry, I forgot to put we did give Bill Kenwright a shout out, but let me just pop these credits back on. Thank you. Okay. So the show is, production design is Nelina Top, who did all 6 episodes, with art direction under her by Kane Silks and Ed Cross. I'm just curious to see what else they've done. Nelina Top has also worked on House Red, Jungle, Never Back Down, one of the sequels of Never Back Down, The Obscure Life of the Grand Duke of Corsica. I know the producers of that film. And then a number of other productions, including Bruno, production designer on Bruno. But I don't know if that's not the Sacha Baron Cohen Bruno. No, it's a film about a homeless person. Okay. So they've also done a number of other award-winning shorts and things of this nature. Well, they did a fantastic job. The production design is really good on this movie. And Kane Silks, the art director, has also a pretty good CV. You might want to check that out. 28 episodes of Headhunters, that's interesting. The Inbetweeners, Cheaters, Somewhere Boy, various other things. Okay, so you got a good team in there, and it shows. So my credit to them. It's well shot. There are 2 cinematographers, Soren Bay and Felix Wederman. They do a good job of kind of making the appropriate colors of the time pop. There's a really nice warm contrast between the flashbacks to the stuff in Jamaica and the stuff that we see briefly in London, and then in Dudley has a much more industrial feel. Occasionally we're out in the country or at Boreham Wood, and these places are really well realized. So there's a lot of contrast between the settings in terms of the way they're shot, the color, the look. I love all of these things about the show. The show's directed by Charles McDougall, who also directed Hillsborough, which is a film that completely changed my life in terms of the direction that I took my own work. As soon as I saw Charles McDougall's name on this, I knew we were going to be in for something of quality. Created by Lenny Henry, as most people will know who he is. Started off as a comedian and an actor, gradually went into more serious roles. I saw him on stage a few years ago in Fences, met him afterwards actually. This is produced by Stella Nimwo, who's a fantastic producer, has done a number of very interesting productions in recent years, and long may that continue. Whenever I see her name on something, I know it's going to be interesting. So, you know, she's worked on Gangs of London, Top Boy, did a great film that maybe not a lot of people have seen called Nuclear. You know, she's done things like Banged Up Abroad, field producer on that. Wallace, the Queen That Never Was, which actually that was a nice little movie. I enjoyed that. So yeah, keep an eye out on Stella, who's a producer with 32 credits to her name. And after this, I think we're going to be seeing some pretty interesting projects from her. The supporting cast in the film are very good, as in the show are very good as well. Going to give a shout out to a few people, including an actress that I directed recently in my play False Accounts about the post office scandal. Elaine Ward plays the mother in a family in a storyline that I don't want to reveal. It was great to see her have a nice little part with a few scenes. You know, she had some great scenes, and it was just really good to be able to show people what she can do. Denise Black has a small role. I love Denise Black. Always great to see her pop up in absolutely anything. I wish we'd seen a bit more of her, frankly, but she was really good. Mark Oliver is an actor that I know who's been to the Outcasts and did a couple of our bits and pieces during the lockdown as well. He's been to the class. So it's great to see a couple of the Outcasts in this. Susan Lawson Reynolds, who plays Mama Gladys, is an actress that I really like. I think she's very good. Seen her before. Shabu Kapoor plays the Indian Asian landlord. She's very good. She's good in anything she does. And the male cast, some of whom I'm not familiar with, I thought, you know, these are all good actors. Bobby Gordon, in particular, somebody I think is going to do really well. So, yeah, you've got to, the casting here is very, very strong. And on that note, I'll give the casting director a shout out as well, if I can find out who it was. I don't see that on IMDb, unless they didn't use one. I can't believe that they didn't use one. They must have done. Well, I'm not seeing it immediately. I'll keep looking. If my apologies to whoever that may have been, because maybe I'm not seeing the wood for the trees, but I just don't see it. Menem Martinez did an amazing job with the costumes as well. So this is definitely a cut above your typical Sunday night, 9 o'clock. What shall we all sit down and watch? Drama show. It's got more guts than that kind of thing. And it's a great insight into what these people experienced when they first arrived, and also their determination to carve out a life here and the way that they went about that. And I think all of that stuff is good. I do compliment the show for also not portraying everybody on one side of this equation as great and everybody on the other side of this equation as racist and horrible. There are good and bad people on both sides. And I think that's very much to the show's credit. But I do think I'm a bit conflicted over the three main characters at the minute. All feel, apart from the lead, who ultimately I think is a bit of a bad person. That's just my opinion. But the way that she tries to trick her friend into marrying her brother, and then also she calls her out at one point and says, "You're not actually my sister. You're not family," to make her feel bad. I don't think she's a very nice person. Now that might just be me concluding that, but that's what I felt. The other two characters are a bit. I want to see more flaws in them, and I want to see. I think some of the elements of racism and stuff that they experience, which is very well covered in the first two episodes, kind of then sort of seem to evaporate And I don't know if the show just wanted to stick more with kind of comfortable melodrama. I think that the show probably wasn't as gritty as I thought it was going to be. But it is, look, don't get me wrong, it is still a very good show. Should you watch it? Absolutely. If you're interested in the subject matter, will you be happy with it? I think you will be, but you may, like many others, feel that the show could have gone further. However, it's only the first season. It's only 6 episodes. A lot of stuff is set up for season 2. It's got a great cliffhanger, which I'm not going to say anything about. And it's a very well-produced show, and I'm sure Lenny Henry must be very proud of it. He should be, as should the entire team. And like I said, the acting across the board is of a very high standard. I would probably give it about out of 10 on IMDb as it currently stands, and I do want to watch it again. But my initial reaction, overall, for me, it's probably about a 7.5 out of 10. Good writing, good performances, production design looks amazing. I do think the show could have taken more risks, and it's a good show, but there were some things for me that I can't quite put my finger on at the minute that were missing, and I do need to watch it again. Remember, this is a gut reaction review. This is not a chew the fat, which is, if you look at those on my channel, that's when we really drill down deeper. Or if we do a best of British drama, which if I did this show, that would be after another season had come out. We will again do more detail. But for now, this is an extremely well-made British drama series about a period of history that we have got reacquainted with through a number of drama shows in recent years. And this is another one that presents a view on it, sheds a light on it that a lot of people won't be familiar with. And I think it does it very well. So I do recommend Three Little Birds. I do think you should watch it. I'm going to be back streaming live at 10 p.m. That is in 2.5 hours. I'm glad I didn't do it so soon because I'm already losing my voice. So join me back then where I'm going to have a guest co-host, and we're going to be taking on Freeway Warrior, which is a choose your own adventure book. So it's a gaming stream. And then tomorrow night, I am interviewing Stuart Urban tomorrow night. That is going to be a fantastic interview. I absolutely can't wait to get into it. And we're going to be talking all about Our Friends in the North, which he directed 3 episodes of, and Ungentlemanly Act, and a whole load of other stuff. Until then, that's it from me. Thanks very much for tuning in and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do check out all the other content. If you work in the creative industry, check out the industry interview playlist. There's loads of stuff on there for you to watch. Until then, take care.